I am exploiting my employer, and I have never been happier. It was a coincidence, really. I was sent into home office for the first time during the pandemic, and our company got reorganized at the same time. Departments and tasks were mashed together and swapped around. My old boss left shortly after, and my new boss has no knowledge on my field and is too busy to care. They never asked me to come back to office, so I am still at 100% home office. The list of things I am now responsible for is pretty long and sounds important and time-consuming. Since I am the only one doing these tasks, nobody else in the company knows how to do them or how long it takes. I do stretch the workload to appear busy. I do all tasks right away when they come up, but only publish them a lot later. So whenever somebody asks what I am doing at the moment, I have something to show. It helps a lot. It's mostly creative work, so it's hard to measure. And saying, "I was thinking about how to handle that project," is an absolutely fine answer to how I spend the last week to my superiors. I somehow get praised for my good and hard work by my boss and coworkers regularly, lol. Now I work 1 to 2 hours a day instead of 8. I use that extra time mostly for chores, sports, and gaming. I have never been happier or more relaxed in my life. My husband has no idea I plan on leaving him. I've been trapped in a marriage for 8 years. My husband and I live with his parents as their retirement plan was their son. They wanted their daughter-in-law to work as well, so that they have 2 sources of income. I gave him the ultimatum that we rent and live separately, or I leave him. His mom is so cruel. She knows I have severe asthma and COPD, post-COVID-19 infections. Yet she lights incense sticks whenever I'm nearby, causing horrible asthma attacks. She never let me have anything in the other rooms of the house, and I spend my whole day only in my room. Doesn't let me cook for myself on time, criticizes my cooking, keeps taunting me and my family whenever they send something, especially sweets, saying we're trying to give her son diabetes, but she makes all kinds of Indian desserts like kheer and puran poli for him for lunch and dinner. I never had a child because not only is the marriage unconsummated, but I never had a honeymoon, and he's cheated on me so many times. Why I stayed this long? Finances. My family told me I do not have a home under their roof. So until I paid my debt off and was no longer living paycheck to paycheck, this is all I could afford. We had a conversation. I told him that we need to leave, or I'll leave him. I feel so betrayed. I told him this in confidence, and this is what he did. I plan on seeing a lawyer next month to understand what can be done. I definitely do not see living with this worthless man and his family who are so cruel. I just needed to get this off my chest and out there to feel like I'm heard and not betrayed. More context. My dad had cancer and he was leaving some life insurance behind. I have my mom and 2 younger siblings. They thought if they got me married, they would have 1 less responsibility. Burden! So, my marriage was arranged when I was 20, and I got married when I was 21. Also, I am from India, and even your professional life can be ruined if people get to know about your divorce. There are no real boundaries between your personal and professional life, unless you absolutely make it a point to hide it from them. And I know right now when I'm growing finally in my career, I cannot bring that drama to my workplace. As for why it remained unconsummated, not uncommon in arranged marriages in India, where the wife is pretty much a placeholder/trophy, while men have side chicks and also go to brothels to satisfy their needs. That's what my husband chose, and his parents told me I shouldn't care because men will be men, and that some have more needs. The heart. As for why it'll take me longer to leave, my husband put us in so much debt, gambling, life savings into crypto. He also used to spend about $1,000 on OF subscriptions from out joint account. And then one month when I told him I see so many subscriptions on the statement for over 14 months, he reported suspicious activity and that the cards and account details of the joint account had been compromised, and without consulting with me, closed the account. Again, I was naive and also at the time dealing with ovarian cancer treatment, so just had no clue what I could do nor the energy. I have a personal loan I used to study for my master's degree, because he, as my keeper, in India, women and children are a man's ward, so we're either care of our fathers or husbands. Wouldn't stand a guarantor for my student loan, so I had to get a personal loan with a 22% interest rate. This master's finally paid off when I landed an amazing senior role and eventually will get me to an amazing place financially. Hope this clears up a lot of your confusion. I used to have a Reddit account back when I had active cancer treatment going on, and it was one of the kindest things I experienced. And now here too. Thank you so much. I'm so emotional, and now even more motivated on my journey. I hate my husband, but I'm completely dependent on him. He is a good dad, he pays all the bills, and I don't have to worry about finances. We live in a huge 5-bedroom home that he owns. He's very successful in his career, and he's very handsome. I have a dead-end degree. I've had 2 kids with him, which reduces my market value significantly, apparently. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I have no savings. I'm not in good shape, nor am I particularly good-looking. I'm perpetually in 500 pounds of debt, because that's where he likes to keep me. I'm just tired of being left to feel so inadequate. He complains that I'm dependent on him, but that's exactly what he wanted. I'm 11 years younger, and we met when I was 17. I've never had a career, savings, he taught me financial literacy, and I paid off every single penny of debt I owed in 1 year before I moved in with him. Then I bought myself things and realized I need things, but I have no money, so I'm in 500 pounds debt, which he could easily completely pay off, but won't. I can't drive and live in the middle of nowhere, so I'm constantly trapped at home. Started lessons, but he never takes time off to watch the kids, so I can't finish them. I have no family, and moved to be with him, so I have no friends in my area that can watch my kids. To drive, though. I'm depressed and exhausted. Can't leave because I have no support system and no money. Can't leave the kids with him because he won't be home to watch them, and often has to travel for work. Can't take them with me into homelessness and poverty. Also, I love him. I just wish he gave me the life he promised. He likes to call me things like benefit scrounger and tell me I wouldn't even have a degree if not for him. I graded 98% in many of my assignments for uni, paid for uni myself, saved everything I needed for uni myself. I've also never been on benefits. I've had no personal growth since moving in with him and having kids. Been outside on my own only enough times to count on my hands. I'm isolated, tired, have no hobbies. I've lost myself, and I hate seeing him grow from my sacrifices. And not even have a kind word to say to me. He doesn't even have sex with me anymore. He hates my temper. But how do I emotionally regulate myself for him when I do it all day for toddlers who need me to? But he acts like a toddler and not a fully grown man and expects me to be nice? Anything he gives me comes with the strings of I'm not grateful enough, and without him is have nothing, and he should have just not got me anything at all, etc. etc. Living this way? I'm tired of him. I let a school bully get his ass kicked in my class today. I teach high school history, but I also teach elective film studies. Basically, my class watches movies and writes reports. I sit in the back and play Candy Crush or watch YouTube. I have a freshman student named Drew. He's your typical freshman boy asshole. 2 months he got into trouble for beating up a 6th grader and broke the kid's arm. He seemed proud of it. Well, surprise, surprise. When second semester started last month, Drew and the older brother of the kid who he beat up are both in my class. The older brother, Jeremy, is a senior. There was no interaction between them, but they were aware of each other. Today we were watching Jurassic Park, and I think Drew said something to Jeremy about his brother. Jeremy said something back, and Drew said, "Make me." I thought about telling them to sit down, but didn't. Jeremy started wailing on Drew for a good couple of minutes and told him to knock it off. Drew kept his head down the whole class. His head looked like a pumpkin, and you could tell he was going to have a black eye and busted lip. I give Drew props, because he didn't snitch. He did get sent to the nurse and sent home, though. I hoped he learned his lesson. That's gotta be embarrassing. To get your ass kicked in front of your friends like that. I feel like a whore. I've had a friend with benefits, we'll call him Ian, for the past 1.5 months, and I've caught a crush on him. But he doesn't seem to reciprocate the same feelings back. I've confessed pretty early on that I have feelings for him. We'll hang out once or twice a week, get food, maybe go out for drinks, and usually the night ends with him back at mine doing the deed. Because the feelings haven't been reciprocated. I've been feeling down recently. He doesn't owe me anything, and I don't hold anything against him. It's just that my own self-worth has been going downhill, as I just wish there was something in return. On Saturday, I was out drinking with Ian and some old school mates, and ran into a guy that I used to sleep with 2 years ago. We'll call him Jeff. Back then, me and Jeff were looking at starting a relationship, but it didn't go anywhere, and ended on okay terms. I caught his attention, and we chatted for a bit, and the whole time he was pining after me, buying drinks for me, giving me attention, etc. It felt good to myself. Today we met up again and were supposed to have a fire, but the spot was taken, so we went to the pub and have a drink. The conversation led to another. And short story shorter, we've ended up at a hotel room to sleep together. I told Jeff that I wasn't looking for anything because I didn't want to do anything that would possibly ruin my chances with Ian. But I was weak and gave in to Jeff. And I am now writing this while Jeff is laying next to me asleep. I feel like I've completely fucked everything over for myself with Ian, and am beating myself up for this. On one hand, I'm trying to justify it. Me and Ian aren't dating and are not exclusive. He's not interested in me. Jeff knows I'm still not looking for anything, and he still decided to sleep with me. On the other hand, I know nobody is responsible for my actions other than me, and I need to face that consequence. Sorry for the rant, I'm just at a loss as to what to do moving forward. If anybody has watched Nana, I feel like Hachi right now. When me and Jeff were talking back in 2023, it was the same FWB situation, but we were honestly looking at starting a relationship. Something major happened in his personal life, but he started to mess me about, and in the end, we just stopped talking. Be inclined to see how things with Jeff go. He's a bit of a bad boy and has a history of being a womanizer. He used to get into a lot of trouble. Fights, drugs, police, etc. Goes out a lot. Or at least used to. If anything, Jeff is more likely to be using me than Ian is. When I ran into Jeff on Saturday, he was telling me all about how I was the one that got away. He's been thinking about me all this time. Whatever. He's also stated yesterday that, in his words, he would like to wife me up, but if all he can get is a FWB, then he'll take it. I've known Ian since 2021, and we're friends throughout then, but fell out at the end of the year. We got back in touch in January and started the FWB thing maybe 2/3 of a week after talking. In the beginning of us reconnecting, we would message each other all evening, quick replies, good night/good morning messages, all of that shit. Ian mostly sits on his computer in all of his free time, coding Gary's mod servers or something like that. Couldn't tell you something about programming in Gary's mod, or playing some other games. I see him pretty frequently. He's not particularly outgoing in the slightest. He is genuinely really kind and treats me very well when we're together. We were supposed to meet on Tuesday for our usual one-on-one hangouts, but he canceled because he had things to do at home. Maybe I'm just completely batshit delusional, like everybody's telling me. I probably shouldn't be sleeping around at all. To begin with, my self-worth isn't the greatest, as you can all imagine. All of your comments are greatly appreciated, both the kind and the not so kind. Best instant karma I've ever witnessed. Just watched an all-time move leaving BJ's Wholesale. If you're not familiar, this place has shopping corrals everywhere. You don't need to walk more than 50 feet to reach one. This particular parking lot is on a moderate hill. Relevant later. I'm pushing my carriage over and get to witness the whole event play out. A guy loads his Ram truck and leaves the carriage right next to the quarter panel on the passenger side of his truck, goes to pull out of his spot, taking a right. He sees the employee 15 steps away, staring at him, not bringing the carriage in. The guy stops, rolls down his window, and aggressively says, "What?" Employee responds, "No issue, sir." Guy says, "Not my job to return it, it's yours. If everyone did, you don't have a job." Which is asinine logic and not true. Someone needs to bring the carriages into the store. As he's finishing his sentence, the carriage hits his passenger side door in the greatest move of karma I've ever seen. The light wind and slight downhill took it right into his truck. Had he A, pushed the carriage back, or B, just not stopped to be an even bigger this is all avoided. Guy is clearly embarrassed and does the next best thing, and that's to drive off quick, with the carriage still against the truck, spinning it into his truck a second time before it falls onto its side as he peels out of there. An employee and I laughed for 3 minutes straight about this clown. I would pay good money to have been able to see the damage, as these carriages are oversized and all steel. I touched myself and cried. I gave my virginity to a much older man. He is separating from his wife and in a dead bedroom for over 7 years. I'm old enough to drink. We're not living together but planning to move in with him in a few months. I introduced him to a friend of mine a month ago, and since then he has been flirting with her, comments of how small and cute she look, which is normal for him to do, that it is his personality as a friendly person. Recently he and this friend keeping distance from me. I have never touched myself before till my sexuality actively with him, and I'm still exploring my body at this point. I touched myself, and keep picturing him and her having sex in my imagination, bro. I can't not stop thinking about it till I finished and cried. Why am I picturing them together and finished and cried? I feel like my body is dirty for some reason. Bro, what have I done? I should have saved myself for someone who loved me, not someone I love. My husband is having a baby with another woman, 42F, and my husband, 38M, have been married for over a decade, had a child quite young who is away at college now, and all in all had a great marriage. We were each other's first love, and within that, the only person the other had ever slept with. Roughly 2 years ago, we mutually decided to open the marriage. We've always been a very vanilla pair, and it had become less frequent as the years went on. We each had a few dates here and there, nothing serious or ever going very far. Enter Emma, 25F. Emma is everything I'm not. I'm very short, with a mom bod, and an introverted, almost anxious personality. Emma is tall, long-legged, shaped like an hourglass with muscle in all the right spots. She's the life of the party. My husband began to see Emma about a year ago. I returned home one night and walked in on them in the living room. Neither of us had ever brought anyone else home to this point. I apologized profusely, and I could tell my husband was embarrassed. Emma told me as sweetly as I've ever been told anything before, "It's okay, sweetheart, go sit over there," pointing at the recliner a mere couple feet from where they were on our couch. "And you can leave when we're done." That's how it started. Soon, I was watching whenever Emma came over. It grew from there. I was in top shape for when she came over. I greeted her at the door to take her boots off. All of this I didn't mind that much. She would become rough with me if I didn't comply. This made me uneasy, but was infrequent enough that I let it slide. My husband never defended me, but also would never participate. Last week I was sat down by the two of them, both looking so pleased. My heart sank. He was leaving me, I thought. I was surprised by this. Emma had been around a bit less in the last couple of weeks, and hadn't been rough with me for the same length of time. What they told me instead is something I don't know even right now how to properly handle or make work in my mind. Emma is pregnant. My heart stopped. What will people think now? Is all I could imagine. My social circle, our family, they know none of this. I mustered a, "And you're keeping it?" And she laughed. She sat on my husband's lap and said, "Well, I'm much too busy and young to properly raise a baby, so that's why you and my husband, are going to raise it." I began to cry, my head spinning. I cried that I couldn't, that people wouldn't understand. She told me firmly that it wasn't a choice. That was last week. I've cried and screamed at my husband, and he simply disagrees, says the decision is made. I am a housewife. I have no income, no immediate family anywhere close. I'm lost. No one else knows about this yet, and I'm just deciding what to do. To raise this baby that isn't mine in the years that are supposed to be for me? Or run away? Maybe try and convince Emma and my husband this isn't a good idea. Thank you for listening, whoever you all are. I don't have anywhere to turn in my real life. I decided not to invite my parents or my sister when I get married, and to be honest, I'm so relieved. I'm not inviting my parents or sister when I get married, and I'm so relieved now. I am engaged, and neither of us want a big wedding. My fiancé, 29F, and I, 29M, decided to get married at City Hall. The only people we planned to invite were my parents, my older brother, my older sister and her husband, and my fiancé's older sister. She's coming from out of province. After City Hall, we were all going to go out for dinner. Around 10 to 15 other family members of mine would have also been invited to the dinner. My fiancé and I would rather do this, and only have to pay for the marriage license, a photographer, and the dinner, versus a huge expensive wedding. I thought this would all be low-key and no stress, but it's not. My sister is upset that she doesn't have any part in the wedding. She wanted to be my fiancé's maid of honor, and is really upset at not being asked. She is making a big deal about it and carrying on. To me, this is ridiculous. If anyone was going to be the maid of honor, it would be my fiancé's sister, not my sister. My fiancé and my sister were on friendly terms whenever we visited my hometown, but they are not best friends. If we were having wedding parties, my fiancé would have asked her own sister to be the maid of honor. A deal out of nothing, and my parents had the nerve to ask me if I could intervene and talk to my fiancé. I tried pointing out, we aren't even having wedding parties, but it seems that doesn't matter. Even my brother-in-law tried getting involved. My parents said it would mean a lot to my sister. I pointed out that when my sister got married, my brother-in-law didn't ask me or my brother to be in his wedding party, and neither of us would have expected him to ask us that. My parents said that my brother-in-law is an only child. But I don't know what that even has to do with anything. My parents said this is important to my sister and they won't leave us alone, and my sister is still complaining. My fiancé and I decided we are still going to City Hall, but we are only inviting my brother and her sister. Then the four of us will go to dinner. After we get married, we'll email people in my family and our friends a few photos and an announcement of the wedding. We still aren't going to ask for gifts or have a reception or anything else. But since my parents, my sister, and a few other relatives are being unreasonable, I'm not inviting anyone except my brother. He's being normal and reasonable, and our relationship has improved since he got sober and went to rehab. Would want him to miss it. My fiancée is close to her sister and couldn't imagine not having her there. I'm still angry at my parents and my sister, but I won't have them lush push my fiancé around or try to control how we get married. I told them I'm uninviting them if they can't be reasonable, but I guess they think I'm not serious. I'm disappointed that I can't have them with me on such an important day, but I can't let them push my fiancé around like that. My brother is the only one who is acting normal about this. MIL 69F wants a gift back she gave us 7 years ago. 7 years ago, my L 69F gave my husband 33 meters and me 32F a framed embroidered quote as a housewarming gift. I honestly hated it. The quote was a religious quote that I found off-putting, and the overall look was not my style at all. I ended up hiding it in a closet and only hanging it up when I knew she was coming over. We eventually moved out of that house, and when we did, the frame broke and I took the opportunity to dispose of it. Since then, we've moved several more times, and obviously I've never hung it in our newer houses, since I don't have it. Now, MIL just asked husband where it was, and said if we aren't hanging it, she has someone else to give it to. Husband just blamed it on all our moving, and said he wasn't sure where it ended up after the moves. I think he bought us a little time, but how do we get out of this one? Ugh. The whole thing is annoying me because, first of all, it seems so rude to ask for a gift back. Second of all, she's given us lots of things over the years, and most of it I do still have displayed. I try to keep a very pleasant but not very close relationship with her, so this is so awkward. Help out. ETA. It was machine embroidery she had a friend do. It was not hand embroidery. My wife hasn't touched me in 3 years, but still wants everything else from me. Is this enough reason to leave? Just looking for some outside perspective here. My 38M wife, 38F, and I have been together for over a decade. In most ways, things are okay. We don't fight much, we get along, and honestly, I'd say we like each other. But for the past 3 years, there has been zero intimacy, no sex, and barely any touching. Casual affection has also become a distant memory. It's like that whole part of our relationship just ceased to exist. I've talked to her about it, told her how I feel, asked if there's anything I can do to help. I don't pressure her. I don't get angry, I just want to understand. Every time, she either brushes it off or gives some vague excuse about stress, being tired, or just not being in that place right now. But it feels 3 years is a decision, rather than a phase. What makes it harder is that it's not like she's disengaged from life. She has energy for her friends, her hobbies, her job, and so on. She makes plans to go out, she travels, she asks a lot from me in terms of financial support, emotional support, flexibility so she can do the things she wants, and I give it to her because I love her. But it feels really lopsided. Like I'm here to make sure she has the life she wants, while the one thing I deeply need is just off the table. I feel like I could get some elsewhere if I wanted. Event, though I won't. Is this, by itself, enough of a reason to consider leaving? Or do I stay, suck it up, and develop coping mechanisms? If everything else in the marriage is decent, am I being shallow for still caring about sex? Or is this just one of those things you learn to live without once you've been married long enough? Because I don't know if I can, but I also don't know if this is a just deal with it situation. I think we all deserve sex if we want it, right? I'd really appreciate any advice, especially from people who have been through this. She's leaving tonight for a weekend away with girlfriends, and I have committed to taking the weekend to myself for self-care and giving this some serious thought. TLDR. My wife expects all of my support but has not provided intimacy in 3 years. I found my coworker's Reddit, and all his fears about getting fired are valid. Last week I was scrolling through a local subreddit and discovered a coworker Reddit and decided to read through his posts. As I was reading through several of his most recent posts, he lamented about having imposter syndrome, having coworkers that have more experience than him even though they don't have degrees/are younger, that many in our office don't like him, and that he feels like he's the dumb one of the department, and that he worries about his job security. And of course all the comments were trying to be reassuring, but the problem is that he's right to be worried. For a little bit of context, I work in a very small department for my job, 9 people total, and the field that I work in is a bit lucrative, more experience-based, and hard to find a full-time position in. About a year ago, my old boss was leaving the department, and before they left, they ended up rush hiring a person straight out of college with a degree, but no experience, and passing over several of my part-time coworkers with years of experience in the field, even though their excuse was that they wanted someone with more experience than them to take the full-time position. Shortly after they hired said coworker, let's call the coworker Bob, old boss left, and Bob since then has been a pain in the ass for our new boss, and the entire department as a whole. To put it shortly, lazy, arrogant, annoying, and lacking in the basic skills needed for job. He constantly needs to be supervised, because he does follow instructions well, and has several times caused coworkers to be injured or near injured. Also, set our microwave on fire. He has missed meetings and appointments set up with clients, and plainly just refuses to take accountability for anything wrong that he does. Tries to boss everyone around, but then turns around and acts helpless so someone will come help him with minorest of tasks. All these things, combined with several other incidents, has caused all of my coworkers and new boss to become frustrated. 4 months ago, my boss did our annual performance evaluation, with Bob's performance needing the most work. Bob did not improve, and since then he has gone through several write-ups and meetings until he was put on a PIP, which he also failed. He is now on his last 15 days, because he lied about receiving an improvement plan to HR, even though my boss has several signed documents stating otherwise. And only now he is trying, and failing, to save his job. It's now not a well-kept secret that he's getting fired, but he's still trying to save his position that is now long past recovery, instead of trying to find a new position while he still has time. I pity him because of how he's treated us. The coworker kept microwaving fish in the office, so we fought back. We had a guy at work who constantly microwaved fish in the break room. Every single day. The whole office smelled disgusting, and no amount of air fresheners could save us. So, a few of us started accidentally unplugging the microwave before lunchtime. Every time he'd go to heat up his fish, he'd have to figure out why it wasn't working. Eventually, he just stopped bringing fish. Victory never smelled so sweet. Lost almost $7,000 in a Vegas parking lot. I went to Vegas to get shit-hammered, or SH-mammered if I'm being polite, and ogle naked women. Enjoy the atmosphere of a gentleman's club with exotic dancers. Decided to try my luck at the games of chance. Bet my rent, and won big. Left the casino with a puffy jacket full of cash. Went to the strip club, and got knackered like a champ. Got so drunk I dropped my puffy in the parking lot on the way out. My girlfriend is going to be so pissed I lost the rent money again. Sucks extra because I didn't even lose it. Well, I mean I did, but I had it not like I spent it on Coke and Taco Bell like last time. I ghosted a girl and ended up at her family reunion. Alright, so this happened last summer, and I'm still dying inside. I matched with this girl on a dating app. Let's call her Sarah. She was cool, funny, and honestly way out of my league. We went on 2 dates, and they were great. But for some reason, I panicked. I was fresh out of a rough breakup, and instead of handling things like an adult, I just stopped replying. Full on ghosted her. Not proud of it. Fast forward a month later. My buddy invites me to his family barbecue. I don't ask too many questions. Just show up with a six-pack and a solid appetite. As soon as I get there, I realize this is not just some casual barbecue. It's a massive family reunion. Kids running around, grandparents in lawn chairs, the whole deal. I'm awkwardly making small talk with my friend's cousins when I hear someone say, "Hey, you made it!" I turn around, and there's Sarah. Turns out, my buddy and Sarah are cousins. Worse? She spots me immediately and says, loud enough for half the reunion to hear, "Oh, you're the guy who ghosted me." Absolute silence. A few people gasped. I wanted the earth to swallow me whole. I tried to laugh it off, but Sarah? She wasn't done. Throughout the day, she kept roasting me in front of her family. When I reached for a burger, "Oh, you're still hungry? Thought you'd just disappear halfway through." I tried to help clean up. "Wow, look who's actually sticking around this time." Even her grandma got in on it. "Justin, right? We've heard about you." I spent the whole day playing defense, apologizing, and trying not to die of secondhand embarrassment. By the end, Sarah finally cracked a smile, and we actually ended up talking things out. Here's the twist. We've been dating ever since. Her family still roasts me every time I see them, but hey, worth it. TLDR. Ghosted a girl, ended up at her family reunion, got dragged all day, and somehow ended up dating her.